So this slide, I just have a quick overview of some of the different issues and how complex it's getting on the state and local levels now with the minimum wage and the paid sick leave. We're seeing a lot of these different laws interact, overlap, and it's really confusing. I've got a few clients that have operations in multiple different cities that have different requirements, and you basically have to go through and chart out which location you're operating in to see which laws apply. So I'll focus here on Long Beach today. It's surprisingly pretty easy in Long Beach, thankfully too. But if anybody has any operations outside of Long Beach, we're talking the city of LA, county of LA, San Diego, other cities like that, we're seeing a lot of different regulations come into play. And it's hard. You can't assume that you're going to comply with one. You can comply with all of them. So next slide, please. So the California state minimum wage, as everybody knows, is going up. And the main reason I want to talk about this too, one is everybody needs to be aware of their minimum wage requirements, but it's also tied to that exempt analysis. To meet the white collar exemptions for your employees to be exempt, you have to pay the equivalent of 2 times the state minimum wage. And with the minimum wage increasing like this, that exempt level salary is going to be bumping up each time. Now the federal government, and we'll talk about this in a few slides, really kind of leapt over the states and really raised the basis that you have to pay, the salary basis you have to pay to meet the exemptions, very high, $47,000 and change. We don't have to worry, that's going to be the level for most California employers until we hit this $12 mark in 2019. And I'll talk about how that's going to change and what level you're going to actually be paying your exempt employees. Next slide, please. So Long Beach, the minimum wage, I don't know if a lot of people were aware, but they passed an ordinance beginning of this year that was going to $15 an hour, and it was a very aggressive increase rate. And then the state came along and put their $15 plan through, and the governor signed it. And it was very close to what the city of Long Beach had in place. But just last week, the city of Long Beach voted and said basically we're going to scale back our increase, the rate of increase. They were going to get to $15 an hour a year earlier than what the state required. The city of Long Beach actually took that back and said we'll match what the state is doing. So there's not a whole lot to report back, thankfully. It's good news for employers that the city of Long Beach actually took that into consideration and is basically helping employers by meeting the state requirements and is going to mirror the state minimum wage increase. Next slide, please. And then, for example, we've got the city of Los Angeles, got a lot of clients operating in the city and county of Los Angeles. We've got these minimum wage increases as well. And again, you really have to be careful. It's not where your business is located, it's where your employees are working. So if your employees are, if you're based here in Long Beach, but your employees are going up to Los Angeles and are working half of their time in Los Angeles, you're going to have to be paying the minimum wage for Los Angeles City for the time that they work in Los Angeles. And it gets really hard to track that for companies that have catering services or delivery drivers, things like that. But it's something to pay attention to, and the analysis is really where your employees are doing the work. Next slide, please. There's a lot of notices, too, that are being required for these different cities. Each city basically has its own notice, so you should be looking up. Again, Long Beach, there's not a whole lot of change. There is no notice that you have to be required other than the state notice to post. But there is, and I see a lot of people taking pictures of the slides. I'll feel free to send these too if anybody wants any copies. Email me and I'll distribute that. And we'll probably just email it to everybody that is attending that signed up today. So freely available, I'll share that. Feel free to take pictures though too if you want. No ownership interest here. And then the links too are all active, so you can download a lot of these notices. But it's something to pay attention to. Just take a quick look at what city you're operating in to see what notices are required. Don't assume that you have all the appropriate notices. Just take a quick look at what cities. Google is a good way to take a look at it. I've got a list of different cities of what notices are required to. Reach out to me if you want that information. I'd gladly give that to you. Next slide, please. Where Santa Monica has some really egregious new requirements, really hard to comply with. The paid sick leave level, we're seeing a lot of time being required to give to employees. And Pasadena and Malibu are other cities that have higher minimum wage. And I don't think Pasadena or Malibu have the paid sick leave, but the minimum wage has been going up in those cities as well.